So hi everyone, good morning, good evening. Uh, this is the first time we are doing a live interview with Ela. Uh, Prior to this, we have been doing webinars on various topics, but primarily without camera being on. So this is the first attempt. So today it is going to be an interesting discussion on Ela's career and Ela's success at CBAP. So Ela is a senior at the senior manager position in an IT company, and she has also been teaching at Techcanvass on CBAP and CCBA. What we are going to do today is to talk to her about her CBAP success, what challenges did she face, as well as how did she approach the preparation for CBAP. So, and we'll also discuss how positive the CBAP certification has impacted her career and what's the plan for the future. So, let's get started. So, first question, Ela, as usual, like in any interview, tell us about what you're doing and about yourself.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, and hi everyone. So my name is Ela Jha, and I have around 15 years of IT experience. I am currently working as senior manager with Intera IT, and prior to this, I have worked with a couple of more organizations like Fidelity, CGI, and few others. I have done CCBA and CBAP certification from IIBA, and I'm also an Agile Certified Practitioner by PMI and CSPO. And besides this, I've been conducting CCBA CBAP trainings for last 3 years. So that's a bit about me.
Okay, good to know you, Ela. So, when did you do your CBAP?
August 2017.
Okay, so tell us about how did you prepare and how did you decide to go for CBAP? Because CBAP is definitely one of the most reputed certifications and not an easy one. So, how did you plan
Right.
to approach CBAP certification?
Right. So I think CBAP certification, it requires some meticulous planning on our part. So I started with going through the IIBA website. I well versed myself with the eligibility criteria and all. I went through the handbook, and then I took the IIBA membership, which gave me access to BABOK. So I just skimmed through BABOK to get a hang of it, and then I started with my application process. So I took the examination date. I set up a time frame for myself, 3 months or so, and then I went through BABOK couple of times to cover the theory part of it. And once I was a little comfortable with the theory, then I practiced questions with few question banks like watermark and all, and where they have chapter wise questions. And I used to read one chapter from BABOK and then practice questions of the same chapter from the question bank, and I used to do it till I used to get 100% correct answers. And after finishing off all the chapters, then I went for the full length test, mock tests. And I think this is how I planned
Okay,
and
as
prepared
you
for
are
it.
already working, so it's always difficult to manage work as well as home as well as the preparation. So, how did you manage the time?
Correct. And all of us, we can't avoid these uh, work schedule that we have. So I think we need to give a time frame to ourselves. That is very important. Like I gave myself 3 months. And also what is important is to take the examination date. Okay. And because once we take the examination date, we automatically become serious towards it. Then I used to devote 1 to 2 hours every day in a weekday. Suppose if I am at office and I have some time, or when I am back from office, so 1 to 2 hours every day, because consistently giving time is very important. And on weekends I used to stretch 7 to 8 hours. And also, right before the exam, I took 1 week off. So that helped me. And in fact, at the time of CCBA certification, I took advantage of the December shutdown period that we get. So that
Okay.
also I thought was a good move.
Correct, correct. So roughly, if you look at the total number of hours, can you give some idea as to how many hours of preparation overall you might have done?
In terms of hours,
So consider, I
I,
think, since you're saying on the weekends you are
the
giving 7 to 8 hours,
eight
plus on
hours,
the
right?
weekdays maybe you
There's
might be
one to
giving
two
some
hours.
4 5 hours or one
Right,
to two
right.
hours. So 10 hours a week for around 3 months.
Correct, correct. So
So
consistently we
roughly
have
around
to devote
give that.
that much time. Right.
Yeah. So that comes out to be approximately 110 to 120 hours.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. So that gives a fair bit of idea in terms of how much time typically one takes or one needs. Okay, that's
Right.
good. So about the CBAP preparation, what was the most challenging part in terms of Babok was the most challenging or something else which you found very, very challenging?
Yeah, so I think preparing for the exam, it's a journey and we have different stages. So initially, I found Babok to be overwhelming, and I think a lot of people would agree to me. Uh, the syllabus that we have, the six knowledge area, and so many tasks and so many techniques. So going through Babok was the first challenge for me. But after 2 3 readings, I became comfortable with that. And then when I started solving the questions, initially I used to get all the questions wrong. So, that happens, that most of the people, they initially have high expectations, and then so that also is another challenge. But over the time period, when you go back to Babok, you practice questions well, so then you get acquainted with that. And then comes the case study based question. So that is another challenge. But again, practicing and consistently giving time to it, that really helps. So these were the different stages. And once you are done with all the knowledge areas and techniques, it starts getting mixed up in your head also. So all of these
So,
were the challenges.
so as you mentioned, when you started to take the test for the first time, you were getting a lot of questions wrong. So obviously, this must have been very, very disappointing. But
Correct.
obviously, at some point in time, you must have got something which really clicked and saying, okay, this is my aha moment. Now I can do it. What was that turning point, so to speak?
Okay. Okay. So here, one thing that really works is, first of all, I think we seriously start reading Babok once we start solving the questions. Then we get to know, okay, what is it that we have to focus on? The second important thing is we should not solve the questions with the day-to-day experience that we have, the business analysis that we practice at our workplace, because that may or may not be the best practice recommended by Babok. So to answer questions, we have to stick to what is mentioned in Babok. So going back again to Babok theory, then trying to apply that into the questions, and slowly I really started enjoying that process.
So that's an important point which you mentioned, saying that your practical experience or knowledge might sometime be different than what Babak mentioned. But
Correct.
obviously, since it's a certification exam based on Babak, you have to answer as per Babak.
Right.
Correct, correct. So now coming to, so you have described about the preparation and how much time did it take. So as you're becoming closer to the exam day, anything specific which you did before going for the final day of the exam?
I think the more questions you practice, the more confident you become. So acquainting yourself, you should be well versed with Babok. So revising the theory and going through the questions and question banks and case studies. So that gives you confidence. And beside that, we need to be in a very right frame of mind. So keeping your cool and calm on the exam day. You should be well rested, like just like all other exams. So I slept well before the exam. I took a slot where I'm most productive. Like I'm a morning person, so I took a morning slot, and I tried to avoid all the last moment anxieties, be well prepared, try to be at right time at the center. Now we have online exams, so accordingly, but be in cool calm state of mind, because it takes 2 to 3 readings sometimes to just to understand the question, and then relating it back to babok, and then arriving at the right answer. So having
And
that state of mind is important.
and how is it the time duration for the exam is 3 hours. So how do you
Right.
think, is it sufficient typically, or you're short of time when you're appearing for the exam?
Okay, so when I had appeared for CCBA, so I could, I got the time to even revise all the questions. But at the time of CBAP, it was a bit difficult, and it really takes time to understand the question well, relating it to babok, as I mentioned. And we have a lot of case studies also, which consumes a lot of time. So this time I was just right on the time. The time was, but I could not revise. Like,
Hmm. So what do you suggest during the exam? Should should somebody wait till he or she gets the answer right, or should move on and come back to that question later on, because there is an option of reviewing late?
correct, correct. So that's a very important question that you have asked, Abhishek. So my suggestion is try to do the questions that you are getting right. I mean, the easier ones for you. Try to tackle that first. And maybe the questions where you find yourself investing a lot of time, maybe you can mark it and come back to it. Because sometimes what happens is we invest too much time on a particular question or on the case studies, and then we are not left with time for the other questions which we could have solved easily. So not to waste too much time on a question, you can always come back and tackle that later.
Okay, just to add here that the marking system in CBAP is such that you have to clear all the 6 knowledge areas. It is not that you score 90% in one knowledge area and other one you score 40%, you will not qualify. They have approximately 55 to 60% as qualifying for each of the knowledge area. That you should always keep in mind. Okay, so to summarize, any tips and tricks in terms of preparation or for taking up the exam or for the exam day, anything which you'd like to share?
Yes, I think first of all, it's very important to, take the examination date. As I mentioned before also, because I have seen a lot of people, they think that once I am comfortable, once I am done with the theory part, maybe then I will take the examination, and it takes years, trust me. So it's good to take the examination date, because then the real seriousness comes. Then for the examination, one has to stick to babok. Maybe for initial understanding, you can refer to different sources, but babok is what we need to stick to for examination. Then solving questions. For solving questions, again, we have to stick to what is mentioned in babok rather than going by our experience, day-to-day experience. And sometimes I have come across that many people, they think that knowledge areas are very important, and they focus on that only, but they kind of ignore techniques. So that may prove to be a disaster, because one cannot solve the case study or application based questions without understanding the techniques well. So techniques are as important as knowledge areas, if not more. So that
Okay.
is something that I would
Okay.
like to emphasize.
Also, there are certain questions regarding what should we memorize out of Babak. Should we memorize anything? Or is there a requirement to memorize maybe tasks, knowledge areas, input, outputs, techniques, the definitions? What exactly should students be looking at to memorize? Exactly.
That's also a good question. Um, See, initially, yes, we know that we've got 6 knowledge areas. With each knowledge area has got 4 to 6 tasks, and each task has got certain inputs and outputs. And to be able to solve the questions, we should know all of these, that which task has got which input, what output. But I would say, and initially it looks overwhelming, but I can give you some tips. You can prepare flashcards, you can prepare notes, and you should try to relate it with the everyday work that we are doing. So just memorizing doesn't work, but when you go through Babok, when you really relate it to your understanding, and when you understand it well, when you reason it out, why this is the input, why this is not the input, so that kind of reasoning, it really helps. Memorizing will not help because we have to apply this theory in the practical situations, and it happens, it comes with time. Without memorizing also we can do with this.
Yeah. So, but just to reconfirm with you, is that all the questions in CBAP nowadays is uh, going to be scenario based.
Right.
There are no questions which are not scenario based.
Right, there are no direct questions actually. So
Okay.
for each of the questions, you will have to go back to what was mentioned in Babok, and then try to relate that to the scenario that is presented, or the case study that is given. So memorizing
Yeah.
doesn't help. Yeah.
Yeah. And also for everyone, in recent times, especially since June 2020, our CBAP CCBA students who are giving us feedback that earlier in CCBA, there used to be direct questions based on inputs and outputs. Okay, 20 to 30% questions used to be like that. But since June 2020, even that had changed. In CCBA also, all the questions have become scenario based. Though obviously the level of complexity for CCBA questions is still much easier than CBAP. This is just a side note for everyone. Okay, so now we discussed about the certification part, the tips and tricks. Now, what happens after CBAP? What is the change which you faced in your career, and what other people might see if they do CBAP certification or CCBA certification? Let's focus on CBAP first, and then we'll see.
Okay, so first of all, initially, before CBAP, I used to always wonder the way I am doing business analysis, whether that is the correct way, what are the industry best practices, how business analysis is conducted in other organizations across the globe. So after CBAP certification, one thing that has happened is I really became a confident business analyst, and now I am able to take up uh, projects which are of much bigger scale. Like I'm working on a very big with a very big automobile company in US. Then besides this, I keep receiving a lot of job opportunities, because in market there is a lot of demand for CBAP certified professionals. Then other than that, I also received a lot of training opportunities, and now I have become a CBAP trainer. So these are some of the changes that I have observed. It gave me
Positive impact.
confidence. Yeah, right, right.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So now, what's next? So typically, after you complete your CBAP and you work for 2 3 years, this is a highly competitive world, and
Correct.
we can't sit on our laurels. Once we have done CBAP, now we have to think about a couple of years down the line or 3 years down the line, what's next. So
Correct.
what do you think?
So I think there are a lot of different options. Yeah, we should keep adding skills. Like we can get into the agile thing. We can become a subject matter expert. I have gotten into project and product management. So we have to take up some additional things as well. And agile analysis certification that IIBA has come up with, maybe something into data analysis. You can go into solution architecture, information architecture. So these are some of the options that you can go for.
Yeah, so you have already entered into management also. So that's
Right.
definitely one of the areas in which people can opt for. So after
Right.
completing your kind of business analysis work for a few years, project management is definitely one of the choices. Okay, so that's all the questions which I had. Uh, so now I open up for the questions from participants. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. I will read it for you people. You can type in the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and then put in your question in the chat window.
Hello, ma'am. Hi, this is Sharath here.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
hi,
sir.
Sharad.
Yeah, hi. Actually, the query which I'm having is regarding CCBA eligibility. So, like, I have like 2.5 years of experience into business analysis, and then like the remaining experience that I have, it's like into testing. So, will I be eligible to take up CCBA, or else like do we need to wait for an EMO?
All right. So for application process, um, there is a criteria that you need to have some minimum number of hours in each of the knowledge area. So you will have to evaluate there how many hours you have put into those. For CBAP or CCBA application, it is a complete no-no to put your hours into testing or anything other than business analysis like project management or testing or coding. So that will not help. So you will have to evaluate there.
Yeah, just to add to that, uh, overall your experience should be 3,750 hours for CCBA application. Okay, so if you are calculating the total number of years of experience, obviously you qualify for that. But then that 3750 is actually the experience in business analysis. So how much time did you spend on requirements gathering, talking to the customer on requirements? These things count under business analysis experience. Okay. So when you are calculating the hours, what you have to do, typically consider 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that comes out to be approximately 150 to 160 hours a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's how we have to calculate your hours. And it should uh, reach to a minimum number of hours in 4 of the knowledge areas. So there's a specific thing which is, right now I don't remember it, but just give me a second, I'll check. And
Okay, okay.
okay. So there's another question from Shirisha. Where can we take full length practice or mock test for CPAP?
Okay, so there are a lot of question banks that are available. Techcanvass has also a question bank. You can go for that. It has got a lot of case study based questions, and there are a few others as well, like Watermark Learning is one of the online test papers that are available. So you can go through these. Some of the case studies and questions you can find free also online, just to get the hang of it. But yeah, buying a question bank is really important for the preparation.
Yeah, so Sharath, I will paste the for everyone the eligibility criteria for CBAP, just so that you get the idea. I don't know, the chat suddenly has stopped working. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, if anybody else has a question, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Shresha here. I wanted to ask one more thing. So, what are the documents which we will have to provide to prove our prove those hours which we are showing for respective knowledge areas, right? So, how will they validate that we have actually spent? So, we do have our experience letter from all the organizations. So, in that they have not mentioned knowledge. They have just mentioned the respective title and your period. So how will they validate? So is there any other document which will have to get from our organization separately?
No, there are no documents as such required. We just need to fill up the application form where we have to mention the projects that we have worked on, the duration, and the hours spent on the different knowledge areas, like how much you spent on planning, business analysis, like that. But there are no separate documents that are asked for to validate the experience. But now I think some of the applications they get audited also. So at that time, one may get asked for these things. But usually, we need not submit those documents.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's one more question from Kevin. Do we need to renew the certification every 3 years? Is it mandatory to
Right.
hold the CCBA title, or just one time is sufficient? So that's the continuation of the question.
Yes, so we have
Yeah,
to get it renewed, where we have to continuously show ours in continuous development. Otherwise, our names are removed from the registry. So that is how it is. So to remain certified, we have to keep it renewing. But there's no examination as such. We just need to provide the development hours
right.
and pay the recertification fees, of course.
Yeah. So there's one more question, but this is more on agile analysis. Sharvari is asking, there's no eligibility criteria for AC, but according to what is the right time to apply for this? So there's no eligibility criteria. Anyone can appear, but uh, as the IIBA also suggests, that it's better to have some experience of business analysis, maybe a couple of years, before you go for agile analysis certification. That's what IIBA website also suggests, and that's what I think is a good suggestion. Any other questions?
Hello, Ella.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is Michael from Dubai.
Hi, Michael.
Yes. I've sent two questions to Abhishek, but I think I will just ask them here. I want to find out first, what is the exam structure for CCBA and CBAP? Is it all multiple choice based, or is it a short essay based? Secondly, I want to find out if it's advisable or possible to jump directly to CCBA or CBAP without passing through ECBA. Yeah, with over 7 years of practical experience in project management and market research. Thank you.
Okay, so all the questions are multiple choice questions. There are no essay kind of questions where you have to write something. All are multiple choice questions only. So that's the first part. And you can
Okay.
directly go for CBAP. There's no need to go through ECBA or CCBA before CBAP. You just need to check your eligibility if you qualify. I mean, the number of hours which are required. If you have those hours, you can directly go for CBAP.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And just to add, there's only one correct answer and no negative marking.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So as I mentioned, on the IIBA website, you have this handbook and all. So just go through it, the number of hours required for CCBA, CBAP, and then we have got bifurcation in terms of different knowledge areas. Like how much hours did we spend on planning business analysis? How much time did we spend on elicitation? So we will have to put hours against these knowledge areas. So that is how we can evaluate.
Yeah, and in case if you have problems in terms of calculating or how to map your experience to the knowledge areas, uh, uh, you can contact Brijesh or anybody in Techcanvass. We have an Excel sheet where you can put in your experience and it will show you whether you qualify for CCBA or CBAP or not. Okay, so that they can share with you. All right. So it seems we have answered most of the questions. And thanks a lot, Ela, for your time. It was great talking to you, and hope to talk to you in future soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you.
And thank you all the
Thank you, everyone.
members who participated today. See you then. Bye bye. Bye bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank